Two locking black plastic.
So I just activated the full self-driving
You brought your Glock
version
12.3.
12.3.4.
You qualified expert with your Glock 19 at Quantico.
Going from my neighborhood to the Tesla dealer in Clermont.
Everyone has a favorite setup.
See if I can work out getting the FSD transferred from the car I just traded in on March 19th during their promotional free transfer of FSD that never arrived. They said the problem was maybe that I created a new account on the Tesla app using a different email, and said they would submit a service request to get the two accounts merged. I was finally able to find a tech support phone number today and talk to Brandon. He was able to accomplish the merge in about 10 minutes and said the dealer really never submitted a case for that, and said to get the actual transfer that I had to get with the dealer, well, they're not answering my emails, so that means I have to drive an hour and 2 minutes from South Kissimmee to West Colonial Drive in northwest Orlando where the dealer is, and maybe I can find my salesperson supervisor since the salesperson doesn't respond. This version of FSD seems an improvement over 12.3.3, but of course it's never perfect. Most of the online reviews have been pretty good. There's always some unanticipated error, so it's good to stay alert still. I keep my hand pretty close to the wheel. Somebody asked me on the previous video if I was using the max speed automatic speed adjustment option, and no. What I found is if I let the car choose its own speed limit, you lose the ability to adjust up or down what the car chooses. And the problem with this is, to this day, for reasons I can't understand, the Tesla ignores any speed limit signs that do not involve black text on a white background. And at least in Florida, when you have construction zones, you get these orange signs with black text. And many times on and off ramps, you have speed limits that are other than the black on white. And these are totally ignored. So whatever the last speed was on the interstate, maybe 70 miles an hour, you can get onto an off ramp with sharp curves, narrow lanes, lots of traffic, and the car thinks the speed limit is still 70, even though the speed limit was marked at 40 or 45 miles an hour. This is something they really need to fix for safety purposes. At least when you set either to follow the speed limit or a fixed offset, which you're allowed to set either based on a percentage above the legal speed limit or a number of miles an hour above, and right now I'm set to go, I think it's 5 or 10% above the limit. You can use the right scroll wheel on your steering wheel to adjust up or down the maximum speed limit. But if you're in the max speed setting, you get what you get and you cannot turn it down, and the only way to get the car to slow down is either to hit the brakes and disengage or to otherwise disengage FSD so you can take over control of the speed. Same applies if you wanted to speed up for some reason, though I've not really found that much of an issue. So for now, that max speed option is a no-go for me. The last video I did, there was so much of the interior of the car on a bright day that you really couldn't see the outside detail very well. So this time I'm using a body cam attached to the sunshade to look a little bit more like a dash cam view, though it doesn't show the Tesla screen like the previous video did. I have the autopilot set in average mode. Previously it was in chill mode. This adjusts the following distance behind other cars. Now, most of you that have driven in Florida, if you leave a gap of about 2 car lengths, you can almost always count on somebody jumping into that space for whatever reason, even if it's bumper to bumper after that. There it goes. So the speed limit here is 45 miles an hour, and the maximum speed is adjusted to 47. So that would be a 5% over the speed limit setting based on my configuration. In previous versions of the FSD, this next intersection, when turning right off of Pleasant Hill Road onto John Young Parkway, has been a little bit of a challenge. There is a right turn only lane, and then there's also a second lane that can turn to the right. The right turn only lane will take you into another ramp-like lane that goes away in short order. So if you're in the far right lane, you have to merge over to stay into traffic. But you do have a little bit more of a green light from that far right lane than you do from the second lane over. Though many people take the right turn on red even from the second lane. We're 0.8 miles from the intersection and we just took the right lane. I've noticed that if somebody is closing on you from behind when you're in the left lane, the car will move over when it can to be friendly and allow traffic to pass. That's nicer than most humans drive here in Florida. That will hog that left lane even if they're driving under the speed limit. So let's see how it negotiates this tricky intersection this time. Remember, the two far right lanes can turn right, so it's taking the far right lane. And we have a red light, 2 cars ahead. Now we've got the right green arrow. So there's one light, but both lanes are making the right turn. You can hear my radar detector off and on. And it's going to go ahead and merge out of that limited right turn lane. So that was handled pretty well. So we've been on the FSD for 10 minutes now without any steering wheel nags. It's kind of random. It's far better than previous versions that would nag you every 30 seconds. Sometimes it'll be every few minutes and sometimes not at all. Can't really track my eyes with sunglasses today. I'm going to manually adjust the speed limit up to 50 while the posted signs say 45. So it'll be a little bit closer to what the average traffic is doing. So the recording today is done with a Bob Love M7 body camera. I kind of like this camera because it does do 4K video and the battery life is pretty impressive. It can basically go all day, which most action cams, of course, only go an hour or slightly above that. It was not fully charged, but the battery indicator shows full. It's been sitting in my car for weeks without a charge. This one uses the older style USB FAT connection. I'm not sure what you call that, but it's typically the connection used on older video cameras. And it can charge through that connection. These are marketed mainly for police and so on, but it comes with a variety of mounting options. I'm using the shirt clip and just have it attached to the sun visor. It hesitated for a second there on the lane change, but then went ahead and moved over. So we're still on now John Young Parkway, and it's going to have us take a right on Oak Street to take us through the part of Kissimmee where the hospital trauma center is, which usually means it's going to work its way over to the Florida Turnpike to take us north in the direction of the Clermont Tesla dealer. I bought the car at the Tesla dealer in Clermont because they're the ones that had the one I wanted in stock. You know how these impulse buys are, you have to have it right then. I got there and did the deal like an hour before they closed. So we're supposed to be turning right, and there's still no turn signal. We're 100 feet from the intersection. That's interesting. So let's see what we're going to do. So the GPS certainly thinks we're turning right. 14 minutes now with no steering wheel nags. And you may notice that the car stopped a little bit short here to allow that crossing traffic to come through. Since there's a driveway, it tries not to block other intersections at stoplights, or I guess driveways in this case. Now the turn signal comes on, now that we're moving. Here we go. "35-mile-an-hour speed limit here." So we're passing in front of the HCA Florida Osceola Hospital. Got my first steering wheel nag. At 14 minutes, 23 seconds. One of the challenges I think we're going to see more and more, there goes my second steering wheel nag, that's interesting. But one of the challenges we're going to have more and more as the AI gets better and better is the AI, as you know, on a Tesla has access to data from 8 cameras at all times. Doesn't get tired, day, night, rain, whatever. It's always watching all 8 cameras simultaneously and processing the images, for the most part locally, though based on data collected all over the world and sent to the main computers at Tesla. So in their updates, it gets a little better at following human behavior. But the problem is the computer can see things faster than a human can, and it can make decisions faster than a human can. And humans, of course, should not trust the system totally. But the trick here is that the computer can come up to an intersection, for example, and it can decide very quickly if it's safe to travel through or to change lanes or do whatever. And it can make these decisions way faster than a human can, because it takes time for a human to move the head around or move the eyes around to get just a fraction of the data that the Tesla is able to get in an instant. And it's a little difficult sometimes to trust the car when it makes these decisions so fast. And that's only going to get worse. There'll be even bigger gaps. And at times, the car is probably going to have to be throttled down a little bit with respect to its decision making, just to give the humans a chance to catch up and see that what the car is doing is legitimate. And I suspect there are a lot of deactivations of the FSD that occur because of this disparity in decision time. Because a human might think a mistake's being made or the attention was not being paid when really attention was being paid. It's just in that half second or whatever, the car had already figured out what it needed to do and what was safe and went ahead and did it before the human had even finished looking both ways. And this is probably going to apply to things more than just cars. Other AI applications are going to probably have the same issue, at least in mission critical activities. But more and more, I suspect that when feasible, the software is going to have to slow down to take us humans into account and our own limitations, just to make us feel a little more comfortable with what the heck it's doing. This can also surprise other drivers, because the car might see that it's safe to do a traffic merge relatively close to another car, and this may freak out the other car when this happens in a hurry, because they're going to see that activity as reckless, even if it technically is not reckless, based on the available data and the relative speeds of the vehicles and the amount of space and distance involved. What do you think? Of course, you can post comments down below to get into this discussion if you like. But if the computers ever get really sentient, you can imagine they're going to get impatient with us and our limitations. But like I said, it's not just the driver they have to be patient with, it's the drivers of other vehicles that may not know anything about FSD or its capabilities. Not to mention traffic police. So this route's getting ready to follow the Florida Turnpike north, and it'll cross Interstate 4 heading up to the Clermont area. And it's 3:30 in the afternoon on a Wednesday, so traffic is getting ready to get real. And people in Florida, their driving is probably most aggressive either on the way to work or on the way home from work. .7 miles from the intersection. It used to wait to the last second and sometimes miss the turn completely. So getting into the position for the right turn earlier is more like a human would do and more accurate. That guy wasn't quite all the way into his lane, so when we passed him, it moved us over to the left edge of our lane, much the way it does when passing big trucks on the highway. Here's another car stopped partially in the lane, lost a tire, the whole wheel really. And we moved over just enough. There was no traffic on the left, and of course the car already knew that before we approached, faster than a human would know. Little indecision on the lane here, wiggling back and forth between the two right turn lanes. It's kind of easing to the second lane now. Interesting. So just couldn't decide there for a minute. We're kind of hugging the line. There's not a clear lane marker separating these two right turn lanes. There is text on the street behind us saying right turn only, but no line separating the two right turn lanes. So we got the two right green arrows up ahead. So hopefully we're getting a little bit more centered. Now we do have a line separating. So we're back in the far left lane up ahead, and we're getting ready to go through a ramp, through a toll plaza, to start the process of merging onto the Florida Turnpike North. The ramp's fairly long here after you get through the toll plaza. Most of us have these stickers in the car that let us go either through the cash lane or the sun pass lane. Doesn't really matter. You don't have to stop. You're supposed to slow down to 25 miles an hour going through the toll plazas. With COVID, they've pretty much eliminated having toll collectors at the vast majority of these, at least. And if you have the SunPass sticker or the box, you actually get a discount on the toll. So if you live here, there's no excuse to not have one. It links to your debit card or credit card, and it's self-recharged, so you basically stick it on your car and forget it. They can read your license tag and bill you, but I think they charge a little bit more for that. Toll by plate, they call it. So again, there are two left turn lanes to get onto this on-ramp. I generally prefer the far left. That's where it's going so far. You know, it's going a little bit slow coming up this intersection to make sure there's room to not block the intersection. Got a green light, but people are a little slow moving. Well, it looks like it's red now. I can barely see it looking through the windshield of the pickup truck 2 cars ahead. Another thing, when you pass these toll plazas and it has the limit at 25, there's not always a sign saying it's okay to speed up after, and the car stays at 25 forever if you don't increase the speed. So I'm increasing it up to 70 so that it can merge in. 75 now, I have it set. But I've seen that happen a couple times. It'll slow down for the toll because of the speed limit sign, and it'll stay stuck at 25 miles an hour until you tell it otherwise. So that was kind of a quick merge because the car in the right lane was actually slowing down and a car was coming up from behind as well. That was a bit of a tight squeeze, but we didn't hit anybody, so I guess that means it was safe. So the speed limit is 70 and I have the car max set at 75 right now. Now the car is supposed to change lanes if it makes more than a 5 mile an hour difference. We got 4 lanes here. We're in the second lane. The lane adjacent to us isn't really going faster than we are, but the far left lane is. So if I move over 1 lane manually, it'll automatically take that last lane to take advantage of the speed difference. So that tells you that the speed difference lane changes. It only looks 1 lane at a time to make that choice. But now the second lane, or third lane, is moving faster, so it's going to move us over. We're back up to 74 miles an hour, or 75. So we're at the limit I set. And we'll be taking the turnpike all the way to exit 272, which is the Winter Garden Clermont exit, to Highway 50, which is Colonial Drive, which is the road that the Tesla dealership is on. Now up ahead there is a left lane. We'll go up a ramp to get on the express lane for Interstate 4 eastbound. It starts out just looking like a regular left lane, but the signs warn you this is an exit only. If you happen to be in that lane, there's a chance the Tesla will take the wrong ramp, so we'll see what happens. Last time I came this way, I actually disengaged because I just wasn't sure what it was going to do. Did not want to get trapped on an off-ramp, even though it was off to the left. So now the left lane, the far left lane says I-4 express lane only. Tolls enforced. So if we were already in that lane, the question is, would we leave that lane behind, realizing that a normal lane, without changing direction, it just turned in to an exit ramp lane. As it turns out, we're moving away from it, so that's okay. Because sometimes traffic or passing will put you over in that lane. The closer you get to the ramp, the more broad are the stripes, separating that lane from the rest of the northbound turnpike. The normal ramp to I-4 is off the right, and the express lane ramp type 4 is on the left. As you can see, that ramp's quite a hill. Hills are something we don't have much of in Florida. Though Clermont, where we're going, actually does have some hills. It used to be covered with orange groves, but a lot of those orange groves are being replaced with large residential developments now. So the Citrus Tower in Clermont that used to overlook nothing but orange fields overlooks some orange fields, but mostly housing developments now. I've never been to the top. It might be an interesting trip to take. It has limited hours. The few times I've been nearby, it wasn't open. So I thought about changing lanes, and then the traffic slowed down and changed its mind. Did it again. It had the turn signal on for a few seconds and turned it off. Now turned it on a third time. Now we're going to move over. Coming up on the Turkey Lake Service Plaza, which does have Tesla supercharging. Most of these service plazas on the Florida Turnpike have groups of superchargers. So it's pretty easy to drive anywhere along this turnpike all the way to south of Miami, top of the Florida Keys. And there are now 2 superchargers in the Florida Keys. There's always been one in Marathon with only 4 chargers. Once you get to Key West, there's not much driving to be done. There's one other supercharger that opened recently between Marathon and Key West. I've been to Key West several times in the Tesla, and as far north as Asheville, North Carolina, I never really liked for charging. So if you're traveling in the middle of the night, not all the superchargers are in areas you'd like to be at 2 in the morning. But most of them are. So that Tesla ahead of me is my twin, Stealth Gray Model Y Performance. This is our exit, 0.9 miles. I don't remember if this has 1 or 2 right turn lanes. 0.7 miles, still in the second lane. Looks like there's going to be some room ahead to get over. And it looks like it might be 2 lanes. So briefly had the right turn signal and then put it back on again. So speed limit sign for 35. It missed the first one. It saw the second one. But it still shows this. So it's the speed limit 35, but shows the max speed at 55. So while it knows the speed limit, it hasn't reset the max speed down. That's interesting. So it says speed limit 35, and it says 50 max to the left of it. Of course, there's traffic keeping me from going that fast. With the toll plaza, we have a green light, far left lane. See if it stays green long enough to get through the intersection. Nope, turning yellow. 2021 long-range Tesla Model Y started out with 315 miles range, and by the time I traded in after 3 years, maximum charge would give me about 282 miles. This Model Y Performance for 2024 started out with a maximum range of about 272, and that's still where I am if I'm charging 100%. Most of the time I charge between 90 and 95%. Of course, these distances are based on EPA, which means driving the speed limit, which not many people really do. The available range really goes down if you are over 80 miles an hour. If you're 70 or less, you get a lot closer to the published limit. And the same thing happens in gas cars, but you don't hear people whining as much about that. So it says 1.5 miles till we turn into the dealership. We're in the far left lane, so starting to move over. So we've managed to drive 30 miles across Orlando without any interventions or anything that looked particularly unsafe. No major challenges for the FSD, no wrong turns, no stupid lane changes. Can't wait to see what the next version offers. And had 2 or 3 steering wheel nags, and they occurred on a city street inside Kissimmee. Who knows why they occurred when they did. There's nothing special seemed like it was going on. Several car dealers in a row here. They hint that future versions may go ahead and park you at the destination when you arrive at a business, since they have the auto park working really pretty well now. A little indecisive once it gets in the lot here. It's autopilot navigation complete, and it just stopped. Okay, so let's go ahead and park it. Could have used the auto park, but I need practice. Let's see what happens.